Good evening. It's September 13th, 2022 at 7:25. I'd like to open up a public hearing for proposed local law 04-2022 to designate a no parking, no standing zone to be enacted along both the east and west side of Elm Street between Hudson Avenue and Park Street. First thing I guess we do is, Jeffrey, would you like to come up and give us a little history about this street, or would you like, should I do it? I thought maybe you were here to help us with that. Throw the Economic Development Director right under the bus.
Hey, literally and figuratively.
That was bad.
That was not why I was here, but since I have a mic in front of me now, yeah, there has been some, for at least as long as I've been in this office, there have been some concerns about safety issues on the Elm Street block between Hudson Avenue and Park Street. One of the dilemmas is that as that corner has, or that block I should say, that surrounds Elm, Glen, Hudson, and Park has redeveloped, there has become considerably less parking for the buses that are frequently coming in there. If you remember, just a few years back, the entire area behind the Empire Pizza was essentially an empty lot, and there was plenty of room for buses to sort of pull in. As EASM Holdings, new property on Park Street has been purchased and the lot developed, that has become a much smaller lot, and then as well, there's been quite a bit more bus traffic actually coming in the last couple of years. This has been compounded by the fact that the Trailways and Greyhound lines have separated now, so they're both trying to sort of figure out ways to use what is essentially the same space on a very limited basis. Limited basis meaning there's not much space for one bus at a time, much less more than one. So what's happened subsequent to that has been that they have been parking on the street itself. This has created sort of safety hazards, congestion, and other sort of traffic problems. And so this proposed law is to sort of eliminate the possibility of sort of parking and causing disruptions on Elm Street itself. We're working with both bus companies, both Greyhound and Trailways, to try and address these issues separately. And I think we can sort of come up with some solutions for them. But that was the purpose of this proposed law.
Boy, it'd be great if we had a transportation center.
If we had a transit hub, that might solve many
It'd be really nice.
Any questions that I can answer?
Is there anybody from the public who'd like to talk about local law 04-2022? Peter, is anybody online reaching out to us? No? Great. I think we have to wait until 8:30 to at least leave that 5 minutes of the public hearing open. Two more minutes, 7:30, excuse me. Thank you. We'll go by my phone, not the clock.
Mayor, I'd like to propose that you put a clock on the first floor of City Hall, so when I come in, I know whether my car, my phone, or whatever is right or wrong.
All right, very good. Thank you. I'll take that under advisement. Okay, I'm showing 7:30, so I'd like to close the public hearing regarding local law 04-2022 and open another public hearing to discuss the proposed Restore New York grant application for EASM Holdings LLC for a property located at 126 Glen Street, Glens Falls. It's the former R.G. Landry building, and now it's owned by Elizabeth Miller and her company. And so, Jeffrey, if you'd like to now come up and talk about this one. This is why you really came, right?
I just came so I could be here. This is actually round 6 of an Empire Development program that was last funded in 2017. In relatively recent memory, the city has received 2 Restore grants. The last in 2017 itself, when we received about a $750,000 grant to demolish 2 buildings on South Street, the old Juice and Jar and OTB buildings, and the stabilization, I won't say restoration, the stabilization of the Hot Shots and incubator buildings that were in the process of selling to Spring City Development. There was a previous grant, I believe, in 2012 that was awarded to Peter Hoffman through the city again to develop Orange Street Square. I believe that was for the same amount. The program is geared toward private developers, although the city has to be the municipal applicant. And I think the reason for that, I'm speculating here a little bit, is because it involves demolition, potential demolition of buildings. There's always a possibility that a city may not approve of a developer wanting to demolish a particular building or set of buildings. And so this grant has to essentially be approved by the city in order for the developer to sort of proceed. That said, while the city will be the applicant here, we have made an arrangement with the EASM Holdings. This particular grant we're applying for is for 126 Glen, as the mayor said. This is the old Landry Office Machines building that has been vacant for about 10 years. It was most recently used as the studio, I guess you'd call it, for Look TV. That in of itself creates several problems as far as the redevelopment. So what this grant is designed to do is to sort of help to offset some of the additional costs that you have in simply a sort of a standard restoration. As you know, ESM Holdings owns not just the building I was just talking about next door at Park Street, but is also across the street at the Park Theater. So this is really like the third contiguous, essentially, holding that Elizabeth Miller and her company are looking to sort of pursue. So what we're trying to do here is to help her, or help the company, I should say, to sort of engage in the sort of additional restoration that's going to be necessary. This grant is particularly valuable because it can be as much as a 90-10 match. So up to 90% of these additional burdens can be sort of taken over. The state won't have, the city won't have any role to play as far as the cost. In fact, she will be paying for the cost of the application itself. So we're looking for just an approval for this. I think we already have pending this year.
Jeff, is there a dollar amount to this grant?
Well, there's a formula that's sort of based on what you're planning to do. And it depends on asbestos remediation, lead paint remediation, whether it's going to be retail, industrial. There's formulas to do that. Mrs. Miller is looking actually right now at having commercial on the first floor. She actually has a tenant who's interested in the building already. So she's sort of anxious to move forward. I'm sort of trying to hold her up a little bit because obviously you have to, you can't get grant funding until you've been approved for the grant. And then she would look at restoration of residential on the upper floors. We sent a letter of intent, and I believe we were requesting, based on the formula I sent them, and it couldn't be revised, 1.8 million on a budget of about 4.5 million, which would be her total budget, which is obviously much more than 90-10. There's actually, I should mention, there's actually 2 rounds of Restore being offered this year, even though it hasn't been offered for 5 years. Another one, and we've already looked at a couple of other, we've spoken to a couple of developers about additional buildings, so we're hoping to submit an additional application in, let's call it November.
And then if the city's the applicant, so say they're awarded the grant, what's the city's involvement?
The city is simply a pass-through entity. We'll assist with administration and pass-through financing, but we really don't play any significant role.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any further questions for Jeff? Thanks, Jeff. Seeing it's now 8:35. Do we have any questions online, Peter? Do we have any questions from the community? Seeing none, then I would like to close this public hearing about this Restore grant and welcome everyone to the Tuesday, September 13th Common Council meeting, the regular session. And we have a Pledge of Allegiance to be led to us by Councilman Clark. Councilman Clark.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There are two items under voice vote. Is there any voice vote item the council would like to pull for discussion? Pretty simple. Not hearing anything. Number one is a resolution approving the minutes of the August 23rd, 2022 meeting of the Glens Falls Common Council. Resolution two is to approve the city clerk's office and monthly PVB report. Do we have a motion?
So move, but can we have public comment and committee reports after this, Mayor?
Sure. Oh, sorry.
But I'll move the voice votes.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Let's do, thank you, Jim, appreciate it. We just skip right over the parts of the common council I don't wish. How about public comment from the community? Do we have? Yes.
Good evening. My name is Kate Bruce and I live here in Glens Falls. I have also lived in Canada and England, so if you have been watching what has been happening in England with the death of the Queen and the installation of King Charles, you notice that they show their gratitude by saying, hip hip hooray! And so to all of you, I wish to say, hip hip hooray! But I also want you to say it to one of your wonderful city employees. And this month, it's Jody Clark. Now, I know that all of you work very hard on really significant things having to do with the business and the environment and the arts and historic buildings that you help maintain. You make Glens Falls a wonderful place, but so does Jody Clark. He works for the Department of Public Works, and he helps with the landscaping of all of the beautiful little garden beds and planters around the city, so that when you walk downtown to eat at the restaurants you support and go to the art museums and galleries that you support and look at the beautiful historic buildings that you help maintain and appreciate the way the roads are maintained and the sidewalks, take a look at those beautiful flowers. So I hope that you, Mayor, will thank Jody Clark personally and say to him, hip hip hooray.
Thank you very much. Really do appreciate it. I want to be on record that I did not pay Kate to come and do that. Thank you again, Kate. Really. And Jody is fantastic, and so thank you for recognizing. Let's see. Are there any other public comment? Seeing none, do we have any public comment online? No. So the next would go to committee reports. Councilman Clark.
So special projects, there it is, special projects. Going back in time. Our Community Development, Economic Development Committee met to talk about the Complete Streets program. We had a great dialogue here at Frankenfeld, and Chris Belton, thank you, from Lake George, Lake Champlain Planning Board. We were there. We had a great discussion about looking at the proposed policy that Ben had written up and tweaking that a little bit, and then having you guys take a look and moving forward with that. So it was great dialogue. I thought it was very informative, and having those two gentlemen there was excellent for the conversation. So we will be meeting again. Since that meeting, Ben has done another version of it, so I will rewrite my comments in that version. And
I tried to address them, but it was like the 7 a.m. meeting can be a little bit hazy in recollection.
that's fine. It won't be 7 a.m. out of respect for Councilwoman Good, and we will make it an evening meeting. So, but we will be scheduling another meeting to talk about that, and also the transition,
ADA transition.
Yeah, ADA transition policy as well to get that going and wrapped up. Thank you.
Thank you. Committee reports, Councilman Devon.
Well, sustainability is already in resolution 14, so I think that should take care of it, because I think we're looking at Unisource LLC for the Diversity Natural Gas Agreement.
Great. Thank you. So, committee reports, Councilman Lane.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Personnel and Labor Committee met again this evening with the Fire Department Union. I think that there's a good offer on the table. I think it's something that's respectful to the citizens of this community. I think it's something that's respectful to the firemen in this community. We still got a couple wrinkles to iron out. I don't think there are anything that can't be resolved, but we did leave the meeting, and the firemen will be going back to their union and getting back to us as to what their thoughts are.
Thank you, sir. Councilwoman Palmer. Committee reports, sorry.
Yeah. The Recreation Committee did meet, and you'll see on our agenda resolution 12 for the basketball court project at East Field. And that work is to commence, I believe, 2 weeks from the award of the bid, which we're doing tonight. So that should get started very soon. So that'll be really nice for the residents of the city. And we will be meeting to continue working on court rehabilitation across the city parks. In addition to that, we will most likely have a resolution for the next council meeting designating a specific area in Haviland's Cove where we want to proceed with our dog park. So that's coming your way as well.
Thank you. Committee reports, Councilman Webb.
Okay, I've got a couple of things. We had a meeting of the Technology Committee, and we went over a number of things there. I'm just trying to find my notes. One thing was we had the Water and Sewer, we had Sheila from the Water and Sewer Commission come by, and they're looking for a lead pipe project. We're replacing some of the inlets to homeowners. So we need to get that in place by the end of October. Chip's trying to see if we can do that with what we have existing, or if we need to reach out, or if we can do some tweaks, or if we need to reach out to 6 Plus to get and stand up something additional. Furthermore, we're looking at a server upgrade for the police department, and we're kind of, we had a little sticker shock, so we're kind of working through that right now. On top of that, for the website upgrade, we've asked a number of vendors for some proposals, and in 2 weeks we should have an item on the agenda to go ahead with one of them. WIS, which is the Written Information Security Policy. And there was some feedback from our IT supplier, so we're still following up with that. We might be revising it, but it's to make it more succinct. We also wanted to, with the IT company, give us a proof of concept of disaster recovery, because we're paying for the system to do copies on an incremental basis, but we haven't really put that to the test. So we thought we would rather do this in a test environment and instead of like have something happen and go, oh, we didn't think about that.
Is a copy mean like a backup?
Yeah, we're doing backups, like, here's a snapshot from 2 hours ago. So ostensibly, we should be able to load that up on a server and be good to go. So we'd like to prove that out before we say that everything is working properly with that. And one other thing is we, again, are looking to dig into cable for the chess agreement, which hasn't been updated for, I think, 5 or 10 or more years. We also, on the same day, that was September 7th, had a meeting with the Climate Smart Communities Task Force. We got an update from Jeff. So Jeff could give you that now. I'm going to do that to you. You've already been up close. You've had your one. We discussed some updates from Antares, which is the city's consultants for getting the different inventories and plans in place that we contracted out several months ago. We also were talking about CDTC possibly giving us a demonstration or a presentation on federal funds for Class 6 to 8 trucks that are electrified. So that might be something that could be interesting for us to at least listen to. We talked about Kate Crandall, who's Jeff's intern, doing fleet inventory and fleet policy, and she's on her way with that. We also talked about smart city parking sensors, which I think is it's in the packet somewhere, deep down there. So we'll be voting on that. We talked about Philips signifying smart lights. NIPA is going to be presenting to Sustainable Committee meeting on next Tuesday at 5:30 at the Mayor's Conference Hall, if anybody wants to go to that one. I think we also were saying that we wanted to do that one online so that one of people from the Climate Smart Community Task Force who can't be on prem would be able to watch in on it. He's a guy who coordinates for Warren in Washington County. I can help get that set up for that. Then we talked a little bit about hydro, NIPA's blended power company, CDTA electric buses, advanced benchmarking, the Clean Energy Communities program, and that's where I just kind of left off on that. So sorry that I've been so voluminous in my reportage.
Just a little report. That's awesome. Great work.
Councilman,
good.
Could I ask a question first? It just amazes me what you have on your plate. We had talked, because I know right now, I am in mind, or maybe other people are too, we have constituents struggling with this realignment, I'll call it, of buildings and codes. Wasn't there some software that we talked about one time before to help them?
There's the software that we're using in buildings and codes is kind of new in the sense of we have the license for it, but with the dysfunction that's going on in buildings and codes prior to recently, it wasn't being utilized by the staff, but it's called IPS, and I believe the company that has it is Edmunds. Diana knows more about it.
Well, I think you were talking about constituent facing.
Oh, sorry.
And so what you reported on earlier is which the technology committee is looking at, and that will be something that if we approve it, which we hope to, constituents can use that to report concerns, and it creates tracking systems. It's much more robust than what we currently have for reporting a concern. So,
And it also should integrate with IPS as well.
yeah.
Well, that's, so in other words, that IPS integrates with that, you know, what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And the only reason I ask that is that's been the feedback I've gotten from constituents is what do we do? Do we call?
So
Do we
idea.
walk in? Do we, or, you know, in a virtual world that we live at today, the younger constituents come forward and say, how come I can't do this on my phone?
Yeah.
So I've had a bunch of that lately, that's the reason.
This should be, when this is fully integrated, you know, it would take some time to roll out. But when it does fully integrate, it would be that there would be, you'd submit a ticket, you could be alerted to when your ticket has been picked up, when it changes status.
Right.
So that, and we wouldn't necessarily put out all of the way that we're making sausage here. We would put out things that are relevant to, you know, to the people who are reporting.
Thank you.
But they can currently report concerns on their phone using the reported concern feature on the website, and it will go to the mayor's office and then will get routed to the correct department. So if it's a pothole, it goes to DPW. If it's a codes concern, it goes to building and code. So they can do that. This system will just allow us on the back end to do a lot more with tracking and monitoring and reporting back.
But if I understand what you said, on the front end of it, it would also keep the constituent advised as to the status of it. Because that's really, Diana, been the complaint of this. It's like, we feel like we throw stuff into a dark hole.
Yeah.
And currently, they can report that on and that is a great step forward, by the way, for us to be able to report a concern on the website. So it is great progress, but at the same time, most people that are reporting a problem aren't also giving us their contact information. So we can't even get back to them if we want to. And so it is another great step forward. And also, you were referring to that. That is the one that you've just recently made some progress, and you think you're going to have a recommendation at the next council meeting?
That is specifically the one that we believe will, you know, in 2 weeks will.
Fantastic.
And I guess I would also add, I don't know if I'm
Nope.
taking over your.
You're good.
But just to that point, Bob, I think, or Councilman Landry, that is a concern, I think, that is part of the restructuring in that department, is we really want to streamline the process in place for getting back to people, and that's definitely one of the focuses that we've been, doing. So we realize that we want to improve that.
And to Councilman Clark, this is what he always likes, is that when we have that in place, then we'll start agreements for things that have not been being done.
And I do agree with what you just said. I'm just watching as we're adding new employees on who don't know the old ways, and they're going to learn the old ways for a short period of time and then make that conversion. I never had any success with that as well as I was.
Yeah. There definitely should not be a pad of paper. Right? It's IPS was all the information was on, and that's what we are currently working with. It's tough to get that now connected to C-Click Fix is another step, but they are definitely working with it and struggling to, as we knew they would at this point, to maintain, to be able to take the volume of work. The gentleman, I did mention this in the last council meeting, we have offered the position, has been accepted for the head of the department, and I believe he starts next week, the week of the 17th. And so that is all good news on the horizon for us, and it is hard to hold on until then, and we just are doing the best we can.
But I'll say one other thing too is by having this, ITS system or having sequence based, any of these things, is that we're going to have to write policies and then stick to procedures, and that'll just make everything that much easier for constituents, and it'll make it easier for our employees.
Well, and also too, this, and for our purposes, as a councilman, as the mayor, dealing with the day-to-day operations of the city, we'll have a better understanding of what the real issues are. And when we go to budget and stuff, we can allocate where we really see the need for it. And I think also where we need to put where the mayor wants to put resources and where we see the need to work on these different situations that arise. So I think it's great, more information we have, the more tools we have as an elected body, the better off we are to make good qualified decisions.
Fantastic. Anybody further? If not, Councilwoman Glidden, committee report.
Special projects, I've continued to talk to the taxi owners, and our next meeting will be the 20th, and I will have all the package from the discussions and present it to the committee, and we'll bring it forward after the 20th. So I want to talk to them first.
And that's 2 p.m. on the 20th.
2 p.m. on the 20th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So moving forward, we've done voice vote. So do we have a motion to go, no, sorry. Is there any roll call vote item that a council member would like to pull for discussion?
I don't want to pull one for discussion, but I don't think I just need the answer. On 18, the resolution to approve multi-one-week temporary mobile food licenses for the food festival.
Yes?
So the vendors that already have a license to operate the city can operate the food festival, or is this just exclusive?
I believe the ones who do have it in the city can, but this is in Crandall Park, and then, so specifically in Crandall Park on that event, they would be okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any others? Hearing none, I'll move to roll call vote. Resolution 3. Resolution 3 is a resolution to authorize the controller to increase the general fund revenue line A 009999-1589, other public safety aid by $500, and increase the general fund expense line A 23410-4404-1 EMS training by $500. 4 is a resolution to increase the general fund revenue line A 00999-2707 gifts and donations PAL grant by $240, increase A 22990-4479 PAL by $240 for the Police Athletic League 2022 football season as attached. 5 is a resolution to include A 009999-2707 gifts and donations PAL grant by $970, increase the budget line A 22990-4479 PAL program by $970. 6 is a resolution to authorize the controller to move monies from the cemetery perpetual fund care fund in the amount of $3,000 and to place those funds in the budget line A 78810-4479 cemeteries other contracted services to pay tree care by Stan Hunt the removal of a dead tree in the Bay Street Cemetery. 7, resolution to authorize the controller to increase general fund expense line A 45114-4479 chips by $6 million and to increase the general fund $600,000, excuse me, I was counting zeros there, and increase the general fund revenue line A 00999-3501 chips by $600,000, as this reflects the funds that the city will receive from the New York State Consolidated Street Highway Improvement Program, or CHIPS program, for street paving. 8 is a resolution to authorize the controller to move $12,600 from general fund account recreation A 67020-1000 other personal services to A 67020-2500 recreation other equipment to cover the cost of various equipment needs for Eastfield Playground. 9 is a resolution to approve that the Common Council will declare that the City of Glens Falls will be the lead agency for the secret requirement for the DRI streetscaping and green infrastructure project to make the needed notice thereof to all pertinent agencies. 10 is a resolution to approve the City of Glens Falls Community Development annual payments in the amount of $8,859.22. 11 is a resolution to approve the grant award not to exceed $24,000 for case file 2021 home HB-001 in connection with the City of Glens Falls Adrenic Gateway Homeownership Program in accordance with the outlined provisions. 12 is a resolution to award the bid number CGF 220-07 Eastfield Basketball Court Reconstruction Services to Services Unlimited, 213 Maple Street, Glens Falls. The lowest of 3 bidders to respond, and the amount of $231,958, and increase the appropriation A 67215-4467 Eastfield Construction, and increase the revenue line item A 009999-4089 General Government Aid to fund this project. 13 is a resolution a resolution to authorize the controller to engage in the services of Benadio and Company LLP for initial 3-year contract to conduct the annual single audits for the years of 2022, 2023, and 2024 for the City of Glens Falls. Benadio and Co. LLP was the only bidder to respond to CGH-22-03 RFP after the RFPs were sent out to 12 accounting firms as attached. 14 is a resolution to authorize Mayor Collins to sign an electricity and natural gas agreement with USource LLC, 1 Liberty Lane East, number 220, Hampton, New Hampshire, 03842, as recommended by the Common Council Sustainability Committee, which will allow the City of Glens Falls to lock into the best rates available through competitive bidding process for energy rates. 15 is a resolution to authorize Mayor Collins to enter into a contract with Fiber Inc. to install 150 parking sensors along Glen Street, Warren Street, Ridge Street, God Bless You, and South Streets, and Hudson Avenue in a form approved by the City Attorney. 16 is a resolution authorizing the City of Glens Falls to apply for and receive funding under Restore New York Communities Initiative, Round 6 grant program to facilitate the private redevelopment of vacant mixed-use building located at 126 Glen Street, Glens Falls, New York. 17 is a resolution to pass a law 04-2022 for the adoption of a no parking zone pursuant to the City Code Article 3, 208-17, parking prohibited at all times, and no standing zone. No person shall stand in the vehicle upon any streets or parts of the streets described pursuant to the City Code Article 3, 208-21, and to also revise 208-58 and 20862 with our street locations to be enacted along both the east and west sides of Elm Street between Hudson Avenue and Park Street, as authorized by the Common Council to adopt regulations pursuant to 1603 of the Vehicle and Traffic Law, and further authorize the city clerk to make arrangement to have this local law amended in the City Code of the Glens Falls to that end. 18 is a resolution to approve multiple 1-week temporary food license applications to vend at the Adrenic Balloon Festival event to be held in Crandall Park on September 22nd to 25th as follows. Rotary Club of Glens Falls, Wazara de la Rosa Rensselaer, Patrick Pepino of Saratoga Springs, Tylen Clinker of the Lansing, New York, Kona Ice Cream of Clifton Park, Nicole Wren of Stony Creek. And number 19 is a resolution to approve an encroachment permit for 206 Glen Street, LLC, 206 Glen Street, Glens Falls, New York, is approved by Mayor Collins on August 31st, 2022, and subject to retroactive approval of the Common Council for the placement of mechanical lifts, one in front of the business on the sidewalk and one in the back of the business on the sidewalk for repair work to the brickwork and facade of the building from September 1st, 2022 to October 31st, 2022, in compliance with ADA regulations for allowing public access on the sidewalk. 20 is a resolution to approve the warrant. Is there a motion for a roll call vote? So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Councilman at-large Clark?
Yes.
Councilman Donahue?
Yes.
Councilman Landry?
Yes.
Councilwoman Palmer? Yes. Councilman Lapple?
Yes.
Councilwoman Bennett?
Yes.
Thank you all. It's quite a bit of work between your committee reports and the resolutions we just had. We should all be proud of the progress moving forward in the city. Old business. Is there any old business, Councilman Clark?
Yeah, I just wanted to say how excited I am to actually see some sidewalk work going on in our city. That's a real feather in our cap. As we all know, sidewalks are very important in our community, in our city, and to have new sidewalks being put in is an exciting thing for our residents and for our quality of life. The other thing is, amen, that we're starting to get our parking sensors put in. That's been a long time there. We started that journey in the sustainability committee, actually special projects.
Yeah.
And thanks to Jeff and former Mayor Hall, who brought that to us. So that's exciting, talking about getting data that's going to be very helpful to us as we continue to move forward with parking in the city and the needs that our citizens and visitors, businesses have. That'll give us some good data to really draw from, and I'm excited about that. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Donahue.
Yes, I'd like to, on my behalf, I'd like I gotta read my handwriting here, that's the problem. On behalf of my constituents of Ward 1, and I would like to thank the Recreation Committee for all the hard work that went into the recommendations and redevelopment projects in East Field. And it goes to Chairperson Diana, Jim, Bob, and also our dedicated city employees, Andy Collins, Director of Recreation, and Tom Joe. I want to thank
Also, we need to recognize Jeremy Schneibel, our city engineer. He was also very helpful in that. Sorry. No, that's all right.
Old business, Councilman Landry.
To just kind of jump on what Jim said about sidewalks, I want to thank the mayor for the street paving that was done. I had one location in the city where we actually had a huge stormwater issue with a constituent's backyard getting flooded. Listen, we can't prevent that when it rains 2 inches an hour like it does around here every so often, but I took a ride the other day during a normal rainfall and saw that the work that the contractor had done paving that street had corrected that problem, so I appreciate that. And I'm not sure whether this is the place to do this, and I don't mean to offend you by putting this into old business, but I'd like to thank this lady who's sitting in the audience who came up here tonight. You're what I consider a great citizen because you love the city. You're different than I am. I took my first breath of air here. You say that you're not what they would call a native. You're someone who's lived in other places. And for you to come forward and recognize our employees for the good that they do says a lot about you, and you being the citizen you are says a lot about our city. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's a parade, yeah.
Yeah, it should have been great.
That's right.
Yeah, we're long live the mayor.
Very good. Oh, that's great. Old business, Councilwoman Palmer.
I didn't initially have any, but I wanted to just comment, Ed, on what you said, that your constituents can be assured that even though you're not on the Recreation Committee, you've come to multiple of our meetings and come out to the site, so you really are working for their interests. So I just wanted to point that out. Yeah.
Old business, Councilman Lapp.
Yeah, I just have a couple of things. Just following up on what Councilman Clark was saying earlier about complete streets and about the street repavings that we're doing all throughout all the wards of the city right now, and spending more than we've spent before, utilizing funding from all kinds of different sources, including the infrastructure bill. It's important now to be looking at all of the things, all the people that are utilizing the streets and the sidewalks. And that includes, especially when you look at Glens Falls, about to open, Special Olympics here, that people with disabilities have equal access, people who are bicyclists, people who don't have automobiles, all need to have access to the streets. They all deserve the right to be safe in their hometown. So that's one of the things that we're doing to try to push this idea of complete streets and get the procedures, the policy, and the process down so that everybody on here knows when a sidewalk's being redone, that all the people, all the residents of the city are being addressed. And it's also important to note, there's a lot of people who might not be disabled at sometimes, but they've turned their ankle. So, it's a good thing to try to make sure that we have these things open, not just for regulatory reasons, but also for the reason of trying to make it least complicated for our residents. And the other thing I want to say is, if you haven't gone over by St. Mary's to see the mural in progress, it's one of the cool things that you can do, and it's a nice one. That's it.
Thank you. Councilwoman Gooden.
I just have a couple of things. First, I want to commend the transit system for the buses that they have for children from the East End now to get to school on time. I remember when my kids were going to school, they had friends from that end, and that's quite a hike. So I was so happy to see that. So I really commend them for thinking outside the box and getting those kids to school on time. And the other thing I want to thank also, we have a great DPW department, and we know they're not huge. But I just want to just thank Tom Gerard. I had a constituent call me, and he was really upset about his street and, potholes, and I went over there, and it was bad. So I called Tom up, and Tom got on it right away. I think it was done the next day, the constituent told me. So, that's huge to me. So I really just want to thank Tom and our DPW department. Thank you.
Thank you. And so for old business that I have an email from Robert, who came to visit you from KL about our assessment, right? I apologize, KLW appraisers. I'm sending 4 down that way. If you could give Steve 1 as well. And then I'm going to send 3 down this way. So Robert came to us, told us about the finishing of the assessment. Then he also we had asked him questions about how often do we need to, how can we maintain this so we never go through the pains of going 15 years again without an assessment and paying the huge piece and then upsetting people for a huge jump in assessed value. And so Robert has outlined 3, I believe, options for you, the council, to consider. And this is the perfect time because under new business, I'm going to tell you about our budget season beginning. And so I wanted to give you this to you. I found it coming across my desk. I got it last week, I think, and I just want to be able to show it to you and let you take a look and form an opinion. We could do none of this. We could wait another 5 years and pay KLW or somebody else to help us do a citywide assessment if we wish. And if so, we could guesstimate that price, as we priced it out a couple of years ago, was $350,000. So that is an option. But Robert has suggested here that if we paid his company to work with our assessor, Susan, that they'd come in and do some of that work a little bit every year to keep our assessment that, even that much closer. And then on the third, the 4th year would be the actual assessment itself. And so, and then there's one option, and option number 3 in front of you, where we pay the $10,000, and then we split the $150,000 of the assessment into 25 and 26. So really, in 25 we'd have to budget $85,000, and then 75 in the 26, or one way or another that. So those are options for you to think about. And again, there is an option that's not outlined here that we could do none of this and just wait 5 years. But I don't think that's the responsible thing to do. I don't think any of you do, but it's certainly an option. Yes.
I just have a question. Do we have should we have, is part of it too, a resolution to recommend doing this in 5 years? You know, I don't know if we did that.
No, we don't. So that was why I'm sharing this information. These are options, and I would really like you to tell me what you think, because if you do agree that there's an option, that we should pass a resolution saying this is our intention. That is right. But I wanted you to see this first and to be able to consider it. But yes, that would, I believe from what we've talked about in last and what I've heard, I think everybody is thinking that we want to do this. It's a more responsible way to do it. It's less painful on our constituents, and it's fiscally responsible, right? We could budget that far out. I know you've spoken about multi-year budgeting too, so that fits into that model as well. So, yes.
There's also, isn't there also money from the state if we do it more frequently?
Yes, we actually get discount on things, and I could find out more information, but absolutely, if we do this, we'll actually be eligible for a discounted rate because we're staying. Just like we were kind of, I'm going to use the wrong language, so forgive me. I'll use my novice language about this because I am still learning about this. But we were at a 75% tax effective rate, which means we weren't getting full reimbursement from the state because we had been 15 years without necessity. We're now back at 100% value, which means savings to us. And don't ask me the details of that, but yes, and that's exactly what it means. We'd actually get a discount if we implemented this, and I can get you more details about it. Okay?
I think there's also, from what Diana said before, there's also a grant to help us pay for it.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
Yep.
so it's like we get an advantage and then get another advantage.
Absolutely. Yep. So there you go. That's my old business. New business, Councilman Clark.
Well, Councilman Good took my thunder about the partnership between Glens Falls Transportation and the school district. I have no business.
Very good. Councilman Donahue, new business.
No, at this time.
Councilman Landon, new business.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple of things. I'd like to acknowledge and congratulate Lorella's, I think that's how it's called, which is going to be an Italian restaurant over on 21 Bay Street that's going to open up in October, which is just adds to the downtown area that's offerings from restaurants. I also thought it was kind of interesting prior to the meeting tonight, outside of Amy Collins' office, there was a little flyer there that listed all the restaurants in the city of Glens Falls. And it wasn't that long ago, in the real world, it wasn't that long ago. In my mind, it seems like it was a long time ago. There was probably a half a dozen or 8 places to eat dinner around town. 2 of them were places that specialize in hot dogs, 3 or 4 were diners. And in this flyer, which Amy tells me is not up to date, there are 43 restaurant options in the city. It just says that we've come a long way. It's another great job. Another restaurant that opened up is a sushi restaurant on Dix Avenue, the former Sam's Diner. I haven't been there, but I understand that it's been received well by the community. I'd like to mention Elizabeth Miller and her son Ben's purchase of the 126 Glen Street building. Ed Moore, Elizabeth Miller, Peter Hoffman, and I'm probably forgetting somebody, are the types of movers and shakers this community needed for a long time, and they're here now, and they're doing their thing, and it's good for all of us. And lastly, I'd like to remind everybody about the Balloon Festival. It's not just a downtown event, it's basically a countywide event. We're very lucky to have something downtown in regards to our block party. So I suggest that everybody attend what has become well known across the country is one of the free balloon festivals of the state. So, thank you.
Thank you. New business, Councilwoman Palmer.
We had a candidate apply for the social worker position, and it's still in the interview process, but I think that was a positive thing. And also Chief Smith has been in contact with another department that has a
new business, Councilman Lapp?
The East End Action Committee is going to be doing some sidewalk inventory. I believe next weekend. I'm not entirely sure about that, but that's what we can do.
Yeah, this weekend.
This weekend. And so I'll be participating in that, even though I'm fuzzy on details. Well, if Jim was there, it would be a 7.
There you go. And new business, Councilwoman Gooden? No new business. Great. So I have a couple, there is a press conference here at City Hall tomorrow. We're going to hope if the weather cooperates, it's going to be it's at 2 p.m., or excuse me, 1 p.m. 1 p.m. tomorrow, a press conference here, City Hall steps, and good weather inside and second outside the mayor's office. If it's not, for Special Olympics press conference, recognizing or announcing the fall games. It's a call out for volunteers and to raise awareness of the event. The event will be held October 21st and 22nd here. Opening ceremonies again in City Park, and then 7 different sports competing. They told me at the last meeting they were looking to set a record with nearly 1,300 to 1,500 athletes from across the state to be competing in those 7 different sports. Please come if you can. I believe there will be some county officials there as well, and all the county supervisors from the city of Glens Falls have been invited as well. So I just wanted you to know.
What was that date?
The press conference is tomorrow. The full games tomorrow at 1 p.m. is the press conference. The games are Friday, October 21st, and Saturday, October 22nd, with the athletes going home Sunday, the 23rd.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And as you know, I work for Special Olympics. This is going to be a great event, and one in which I think I can actually enjoy a little bit. New other things. September means budget season. Our budget officer, Mayor's Special Assistant Chip Tiernan, has already began meeting with department heads and opened up in Munis the budget, the budget is working with department heads to get that information out and get it first. So what he's doing is understanding the budget and getting it into the Munis system. Then I'm asking him to set up meetings with me so I can understand it with the department heads, and then we're going to get it to you. And I'm thinking instead of the 20 minutes, I'm thinking 30 or 45 minutes per department for you to meet with, which means that around somewhere in the middle of October, we're going to be asking for several evenings in a row. We might do maybe try to not make it too long, but I just wanted you to know I'll get you some dates very soon. And those are obviously public meetings, but we'll do like a half an hour or 45 minutes for each department. You'll be able to ask questions and make changes. Sooner I can get that to you to look at also, to ask questions, and that's what I'm doing. So it's a learning process for all of us. I'm asking the department heads, and it's taking me some effort, but I wanted you to know about it. And I'm also asking them to make a list of things on the side that they need, but that aren't in the budget because they know they can't afford it. Okay? I think that it's important that we at least talk about it and recognize it, right? It's not enough just to have a budget with a 1% or 2% increase and that we're not at least aware of the $3 million fire truck they didn't put there, and that all of them are 20 years old, right? And that's not a specific example, please don't. I'm making something up so you can see it. I think it's important that we know about it all, and that we then can work on constituents. We also, another new thing, so any questions about the budget season? And Ben, every time I think about the budget, I think about you and the request, and you're not the first, but the most recent to say, we should look at a multi-year budget. I don't know that I can pull it off this year because I'm brand new and so is my mayor's assistant. But know that we're thinking about that way. We're going to talk about it. We're going to start to craft it.
But I think just to that, what the first thing we need to do is get trained up on it.
Sure.
So that would be like set it down the road a little bit and then, try to be as successful as we can.
Absolutely. Agree. So I also, somebody's already, the 2 murals on on downtown. There was quite the hubbub just less than a month ago about the doodle grids and was I going to shut the entire project down and forbid it, right? And thank God we didn't. It looks fantastic. Wanted to remind you that these murals are part of our DRI. The funding was set up for that, and we need to thank the Glens Falls Arts District that was actually created at the beginning of this DRI project. They are an important piece of this of bringing art and culture into our community, and that's what we assigned in this, and that's great. If any of you remember and think, what's different, there was a third one in the original plan. The reason that there's not 3 murals actually being done right now is because one of the murals, although it was in our arts district, so remember that we applied to the Empire State Development for the grant. And in that, it identified a specific area of downtown that could be the grant money. But then separately within the grant, we created an arts district. Well, the arts district went outside of that DRI area. It needed to because it wouldn't have included the T-shirt factory, which is an arts center here in Glens Falls. It wouldn't have included the Hyde Museum. But because it did, when we started to look at the murals, they picked a selection of a place on Warren Street that was great, and we were all ready to move forward, but Empire State Development said, no, you can't use that money outside of this. We can down the road. Maybe we can, I'm about to send you some information on ARPA projects that a long list that the department heads have all told me about things they could use about ARPA money, and I'm going to add that onto there. It's about $20,000, and then you can help me. We'll work together as a team to say, these are the projects we should really, we couldn't, it was 205 requests from the department. When I said, what do you need? They told me, and we could get 3 more DRIs.
That's awesome.
It's exactly what we want. So I'm going to narrow it to a reasonable amount for you. There's and then I'll also tell you what I think, what excites me most. But I want you then to tell me what you think, okay? And then we'll work on that for our DRI. So the mural will be in there. A third mural was though because it was already set aside in the DRI. It's going to happen. They've got a call out for artists, and it's happening between the Spot Coffee, the little alleyway between Spot Coffee and the Wood Theater. And so that is the location. We got permission from the building owner and the call to artists, and we are going to try to get it done this year, this fall, as soon as we possibly can. The Arts District's working on it. That money didn't go away. They just said we couldn't use it out on Warren. Fair enough? Any questions before I move on? Sorry, I'm going fast. I just don't want to. The parking study, we should have the parking study done in the next 60 days. You pass the resolution for the sensors, and so they'll just collect data. We're not making any decisions other than collecting data. We have had some complaints recently that from business owners on Glen Street that we're not enforcing it enough for them. It's funny, that's the opposite of the calls that we've received in the past. It's usually when we start enforcing those that they say, how dare you, I paid my taxes and I can't park on Glen. I am meeting with the chief and our ticket master, Tony, and we are looking at how to start enforcing again, and also I think what we're gonna do is make a clear where we can park, where we can't park. I'm learning about every parking lot that has different parking restrictions, every street that can be done differently. Once we lay it all out, we're going to share it with you, the community. You can weigh in. But what I'm thinking we're going to do is spend 3 months of handing out yellow warnings, because we have not, since COVID began, and Mayor Hall sent a note out to everybody saying, hey, we're going to lay off this during COVID, and we haven't been enforcing it since. And that's got to change. It'll work in perfectly as we start to do this. Because some of the complaints we got were that there is no parking problem in Glens Falls. And I don't think, I love Glens Falls, I think it's great, but to say there's no parking concerns, clearly they've been parking in places that we haven't been enforcing. How's that? The sewer fix on the corner of Elm and Park. We had to dig down 13 feet. We paid an extra contractor to come out because of the depth of it. It helped make sure that Elizabeth Miller and the new facility, I encourage you, they're going to be opening soon, Park and Elm. And it is great. If you haven't gotten a tour of the building, please visit Elizabeth or her son. I think you should. It's going to be a great addition. A little bit of a market and a restaurant. And we fixed the sewer, so we're all good for that. ARPA funding. I told you about the possibilities coming to you, and you've already mentioned the pavings and the sidewalks. Thanks so very much. That is all of the new business I can think of off the top of my head. Any comment from the public? Anything online, Peter? Nothing online, not seeing any. I believe, do we have a motion to adjourn this common council?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, we are adjourned.